What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? NoZoupForYou here, and today we're going to talk about the Tier 8 German cruiser Mainz. I know a lot of you have heard about this ship by now. I know a lot of you might be excited for this ship. I know every time we get a new German ship, we do get excited because most of us deep down inside love German ships, don't we? There's just something about them, that German engineering, that beauty. The Kriegsmarine is a favorite among many, and as of late, it really hasn't gotten as much love as the other nations have. So, that is changing. Mainz is in the pipeline, and that's what we're going to talk about today. The Mainz. So I'm just going to go over the statistics of this ship, and I'm going to give you my thoughts while I do that. And I know some of you might have seen some fairly negative previews of this ship. However, I'm not going to give you a negative preview because I don't think I need to. This, for me, is actually an enjoyable ship. Or at least I've been enjoying it under most circumstances. And there's a big caveat there with most circumstances, because the ability to do good in this ship really comes down to fortuitous matchmaking. But let's talk about the ship itself. You have 42,500 hit points with 22% torpedo protection damage. That's not that bad for a cruiser. Granted, you are at Tier 8, and you are going to be facing Tier 10 ships with giant Tier 10 armored piercing shells. You are a German ship, and your armor probably can handle it a little more than the others, though not quite as well. Hipper is much more suited to bow tanking against ships like even Yamato. This ship, unfortunately, Mainz cannot do that quite as satisfactorily. So just keep that in mind, that your armor is a lot more thin than the in-tier Hipper. And in my opinion, that's a huge detractor for this ship. That's one of my biggest irks about the ship. The armor is just not up to snuff, in my opinion. But we're going to move on. We're going to talk about everything else. So, artillery. You've got 4 triple turrets with 150mm shells. These are Tier 5 batteries right here. I know that doesn't sound that great, does it? It kind of leaves you feeling underwhelmed right now. You've got Tier 5 guns on a Tier 8 ship. But you do have 12 of them, and that's pretty cool right there. Reload time on these shells is a pretty quick 7.5 seconds. You can get these guns off pretty quickly. It feels like you can get them off quickly, and that's awesome. You need to be able to do that. However, there are some downsides about the shells that you'll be slinging. Your maximum AP shell damage is 3,900, maximum HE shell damage is 1,700. Chance of HE causing a fire is 8%. It feels even less when you actually get out there and start slinging these shells. Honestly, the guns are underwhelming. Very underwhelming. And there's that word again, underwhelming. In your own tier, they're fine. That's great. Against other Tier 8 ships, they're going to do fine. Against Tier 7 ships, they're going to do fine. Against Tier 6 ships, they're going to do fine. However, against Tier 9 ships, especially battleships, you're going to have some more problem. I'd love to see a little bit better fire percentage chance, just so you can farm that HE damage against battleships. Right now, you really don't have the ability to do that, and that's unfortunate. Shell velocity is 960 meters per second. Your arcs are pretty good on this ship. I can't really complain about them. I mean, they are a little high, but I feel like I'm able to hit my targets when I want to. They're not moonshots like some cruisers, so that's a good thing right there. And those are your main batteries. Keep in mind you do have torpedoes. That's a nice little addition to German ships, obviously. You got 4 torpedo tubes with 4 torps each, so 4x4s right there. That's pretty generous. I mean, being able to spit out 8 torpedoes per side, that's a very nice up-close and personal offensive weapon right there. Though they only have a 6-kilometer range, they do travel at 64 knots. So if you do get close enough to use these, chances are whomever you're using them against likely isn't going to be able to get out of the way of them in time. So, good weapon right there offensively. Now let's talk about the AA defense on this ship. I'm actually quite impressed with this ship's anti-aircraft capabilities. Granted, I played mostly Tier 6 aircraft carriers in this ship, where of course you're going to bully those planes. I went through a round not even realizing I smacked down over 40 airplanes. I just didn't notice it. I guess I didn't expect that to happen in a German cruiser, but it did happen, and I felt pretty cool about it afterwards. It's awesome looking at the end screen and seeing that you shot down that many planes when you weren't expecting it. And that's the thing about this ship. It's got pretty good anti-aircraft capabilities, so just keep that in mind. Your maneuverability on this ship is going to have a max speed of 32 knots. Pop some Sierra mics on, and that's going to boost up to 33.6. So you're definitely not lethargic right there. I'd say that's pretty decent speed for Tier 8. It's not blazing fast, but it's not tortoise slow. You've got a turning circle of 720 meters and a rudder shift time of 10.5 seconds. This ship does feel like it turns quickly. This ship does feel very nimble, and that's a very nice thing about this ship, especially when you're closing in on targets for that kind of mono-e-mono gunfight right there. So another good thing about this ship, it's actually fun to captain. It feels good. Some ships got it, some ships don't. Some ships just don't feel good to play in. This ship does. This ship feels very, very nice. Concealment, you're looking at 12-kilometer detectability. It's not good, it's not great. But you are a German ship, so I wouldn't expect it to be any better than that. Still, I'd like to see it a tad better, but it is what it is. For consumables, you've got 3. Obviously, in the first slot, you've got damage control. The second slot, you have a choice between hydroacoustic and defensive fire. I think I always opt for hydroacoustic in this ship just because it's very, very successful at hunting down destroyers. And in the third slot, you don't have a choice outside of having a fighter aircraft. So no spotter, you do get fighters though. As far as upgrades are concerned, and what I used for upgrades, you get Concealment System Mod 1, obviously. That's going to be in your 5 slot. In the 4 slot, you've got the choice of Damage Control Mod 2, Propulsion Mod 2, Steering Gears Mod 2. I've got Propulsion right now, but I might slap Steering Gears Mod 2 on there because this ship can turn pretty quick, and it'd be nice to see it turn even quicker. I think you do that, you're going to be able to juke and jive just a little more in this ship, which might increase your survivability just a tad. In the 3 slot, I chose Aiming Systems Mod 1 just because that's usually what I choose in this slot. However, you probably could go with AA Guns Mod 1 to boost up that AA just a little more. In the 2 slot, I took Hydroacoustic Search Mod 1. Yes, I've got that special mod right there, and I figured that this was a good time to use it. No complaints with that. Again, I like using this ship to hunt down destroyers. Using this modification's really good for that because you have to worry a little less about torpedoes when you're running it. And obviously in your first mod slot, you've got your typical main armaments mod 1, etc, etc. So what's my overall feeling of the Mainz right now? As I told you before, there's some CCs out there and some other individuals that just do not like this ship for some reason. They just hate it. And then on the flip side, there's a lot that are loving it or it's warming up to them. I enjoyed it from the start. I mean, I understand that this ship has some pretty big shortcomings, especially when you're in a Tier 9 or Tier 10 battle. But that being said, if not for the armor, this ship would probably be right where it needs to be. You do have smaller guns. Again, I said they're Tier 5 guns, but the fact that they fire so quickly and that you have so many of them, you're still able to do damage. Maybe not at the rate that other ships are able to, but having good rounds is not that hard in this ship. It really isn't, especially if you're top tiered. And if you're top tiered, and even if you're not, this ship is great against enemy destroyers. It's really fun to go out there and just hunt down destroyers in this thing. Again, because you've got so many guns, and you've got such fast reload, and that very nice German hydro. So when you put those 3 things together, and you've got destroyers near you, you're pretty much a destroyer's worst nightmare. Because you have the ability to just take them on and absolutely wreck them with your guns. I think that's what a lot of players are going to enjoy doing in this ship, using it in that anti-destroyer role. That being said, a little harder to use against more hardened targets. Battleships, you're going to do 1,000 paper cuts before you make any significant dents in ships. Sometimes. It does feel like that sometimes, just because of your guns again. And again, I said I'd like the fire to be a little bit better. Your HE, it's just... Again, the guns are a big issue on this ship. And I don't want to say that they're an issue, because I think if they were stronger, we might have other issues with this ship. But the guns definitely are underpowered, but they make up for that in their reload. The biggest issue with this ship right now is its armor. And I touched on that on the very beginning of this video. You have weaker armor plating than your in-tier tier 8 German counterparts. And that makes for a hard time when you're the low tier boy in a tier 10 battle. You're not going to be able to do the things that you can do in a hipper, and that's unfortunate. If you had that same armor though, I think we'd have a ship that's capable of fighting at every single tier. But right now though, tier 10s are going to be a little painful in this ship. They're going to be a little rough. So just keep that in mind if you do go for this ship ultimately, though we don't know how it's going to be right now. We don't know how it's going to be released. In closing, I'm looking forward to this ship. I think it holds potential, and I think a lot of players are going to find a place for it in their port. Right now, it's shaping up to be a good ship. With a couple more little tweaks, it could be even better. So, since it is a work in progress, we're just going to see how things go moving forward, see if it gets a little bit of a buff. If not, it's still fun, just won't be as fun when you get in a tier 10 battle. So keep that in mind. Anyhow, this is a preview of the mains. Be sure to subscribe, hit that notification button to get more ship previews and reviews and all that good stuff. Guys, thanks for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful month. Zoop out.